Leaders advise that you name or brand the medical condition before beginning pre-launch education. This allows for investigators and KOLs to begin using the term when first writing about the condition and later writing about clinical studies. Not so long ago, the public had never heard of restless leg syndrome, high cholesterol, or erectile dysfunction. But the development and marketing of treatments for these new conditions in recent years have undoubtedly brought great benefits to both drug companies and their customers. We heard from brand leaders that a critical first challenge in communicating either internally or externally about a treatment for a new condition is developing a product name and a name for the disease. Pfizer has been particularly successful at this, and the evolution of the naming of their disease, erectile dysfunction, taking it from the socially stigmatized version to the more user-friendly, more socially stigmatized impotence, to then erectile dysfunction, a scientific term, to then ED, a very friendly, easy-to-use term, is a great example of this. Moving on, that from naming the condition or disease is actually a first step in a series of steps that in a process that brand veterans labeled needs creation marketing. And these steps involve using the scientific literature to introduce the name, ensuring that KOLs use the new name whenever they're discussing the disease, letting the definition for the new condition to come from the mouths of experts within the medical community, publicizing the condition to develop awareness that it's real and that patients are suffering, and then finally, at launch, positioning the new product as the solution to the problem that's been developed in the literature. This has been done successfully as many companies have introduced brands for previously unknown conditions. We did hear one cautionary note. In this era of public scrutiny of the pharma industry, companies using this strategy can run into being accused of disease mongering, as happened to GSK with its Requip product. We heard executives recommend a series of steps for countering such charges that begin with restating the disease mongering accusation, identifying an existing condition that's well accepted, such as HIV, observing that this previously was an undiagnosed condition, and then finally pointing out that through advances in medicine, the condition was recognized, diagnosed, and treated, and went on to save lives and improve quality of life for many patients. Brand leaders told us that putting a human face on a disease helps build empathy and create understanding with both external and internal audiences. The burden of illness is always important, said a marketing VP, especially where people might think it's just a lifestyle thing and not a big deal. Likewise, an AVP told us, science does not speak for itself when talking to a larger population. Instead, matching that science to a patient's story gives them grounding in what challenges that individual faces and gives them something they can relate to on a one-to-one basis. We also saw some additional internal benefits to putting a human face on the disease, and those are fostering professional behavior among employees, helping them understand and retain the science, and building job satisfaction and understanding that the company is actually helping people with serious issues and challenges. Participating brand leaders have found that the single most effective way to build disease understanding and support for a new product is through exposure to patients who can talk about their personal experience. We've seen companies using their sites to collect information. And this slide shows an example of how Pfizer uses a website to collect patient testimonials for its fibromyalgia drug, Lyrica. What we heard in support, a director of new product development said to us, the most compelling stories are before and after stories where patients, especially in phase 3, talk to groups about how this medicine changed their life and how grateful they are to the company. That's tremendously emotional and powerful stuff. We also heard about the companies collecting testimonials through physician referrals and through caregiver stories, as well as through talking with families about what they go through in living with patients. Companies with early products for HIV, ED, depression, and other new or stigmatized conditions have successfully used scientific and clinical data to establish brand credibility. We've seen bringing in KOLs, clinical leaders, and other and investigators helps employees and outsiders understand the science, and explaining the medical background, who's affected, the known causes of the disease, providing statistics on morbidity or diminished quality of life, explaining how the disease is presently understood, and avoiding communications that are too technical are all tactics that companies have used successfully, telling how a company plans to fulfill an unmet need, and sharing clinical trial results and health outcomes data all along the way as available are also very strong tactics. Viagra, for example, took a strictly medical approach to communicating to employees. And the company understood that Viagra had to come out as a medicine for a medical condition. And this approach helped later externally when Pfizer responded to effectively to talk show jokes about the new product. A global product leader told us it's all about credibility internally and externally, and people want to see some sort of statistics in a trial that was done with patients. With a new or poorly understood medical condition, it's all about selling the science, selling the disease state, and selling the company as looking to meet an unmet medical need. A strategic director of business analysis told us, people have to understand that this is a real deal, this is a real disease, and this has a certain defined kind of morbidity and diminished QOL, and this is the incidence. Here's how it's understood. Before any communication, internal or external, you also have to be sure that the product works and communicate that to your audiences. Our research found that most companies are using a multi-channel approach for their brand communications and are experimenting internally and externally with new technology. In a recent study we concluded on internal branding, we asked 28 companies to tell us which channels are most effective for educating employees about new products and their associated disease states. They told us that overall, email, conference calls, and webinars were most often effective in telling colleagues about a new product. However, the option that they most often rated highly effective was classroom or leader-led training. There are a number of advantages cited in interviews for classroom and leader-led training, and those are reviewed here on the slide. The leader can report back on challenges encountered during a class. Employees can get comfortable discussing new terminology, new definitions. Leaders can model appropriate behavior, and the need for additional training can be identified and implemented before general outright launch to the public.